Welcome back, everybody. I am Chuck Beaver, and this is The Writing Wasn't Very Good, my web series dedicated to helping you avoid the pitfalls of video game writing. In this episode, we will explore why narrative design is invisible, and why that's a huge issue for both the creators and the games themselves. If you're a creative executive, I'm going to argue that this might be the most important episode of this series for you. Why? Because narrative design is often sidelined, and understanding its role can dramatically improve the creative process and the final product. And profit. As writers and narrative designers, we often find ourselves left out of the pre-production cycle, or worse, brought in at the very end to just write the dialogue, after everything else is already done. Why does this keep happening? Because our craft is invisible. Let's talk about why that is and what we can do about it. Why are we invisible? In every other discipline, their craft manifests as a tangible, evaluatable artifact. Everyone can watch art progressing from rough sketches to final art. And everyone can hear audio progressing from rough to final. Everyone can see engineering code progressing from blue screen of death to something buggy to something perfect. Engineering code just doesn't work objectively if it's broken. And everyone can see level design progressing from gray box to final. But narrative design? What is the tangible difference between first and final drafts? The answer is, the difference is not tangible. It's invisible. Many properties ship with the narrative equivalent of the blue screen of death, because narrative flaws are not fatal to its existence. This lack of fatality leads to plot holes that wreck the flow. Save Martha! Passive protagonists that erode tension. Dialogue that falls flat because it lacks subtext.
I don't like sand.
Put simply, you cannot ship a game with catastrophically broken code, but you can ship a game with catastrophically broken story.
And it gets everywhere.
Narrative design is the invisible dynamic between the tangible hard parts of people, places, and things. Think of us like music. It's not the notes, but the collaboration of the notes across time. Story is almost the same. We exist as the invisible meaning conjured by the hard parts, governed by the art of their arrangement. To put it more simply, if story is a jigsaw puzzle, the hard parts are the pieces, and narrative design is assembling them into a picture. As I said, our equivalent of music's notes for storytelling are people, places, and things. Our craft is about constructing an invisible framework of context, or connection, that enables and maximizes the capacity of these people, places, and things to conjure explosive, deep, and powerful emotional experiences, otherwise known as resonance. Our goal. To put it more simply, an assassin and her target isn't just two people, it's the invisible dynamic between them. That tension, that purpose, that inevitability, that is story. This invisible framework of context is the essence of world building and the foundation of storytelling. It is an invisible structure that connects all the elements of your world, creating rules and relationships that make cause and effect feel natural and impactful. Without it, events become arbitrary, which is bad, losing meaning, emotional weight, and any chance of generating resonance. Now, not all connections are equally valuable for us. Ours need to meet some conditions in order to be useful. The basic litmus test is, do they generate conflict? Conflict can come in many forms, such as high emotional stakes. Does the connection disrupt identity, survival, or mortality? Conflict and opposing forces. Does it generate natural opposition? Moral or strategic complexity. Can different people interpret it differently? The ultimate goal of all these connections is to form at the core of your franchise a what-if engine. The what-if engine is a logic system meant to generate outcomes objectively and independently, freeing you from manually having to decide on each new idea based on potentially subjective and ad hoc criteria, that can result in randomness. To put it more plainly, you build a world where the rules are so clear that it naturally answers the question, would this make sense by itself every time? This ensures that setups and payoffs work seamlessly. Your world feels alive, consistent, and immersive. Emotional resonance becomes inevitable rather than forced. What a great thing. Without this engine, your world won't run, and your creative teams can quickly become paralyzed by indecision. Okay, that's a lot of high concepts. Let's talk about these invisible connections between people, places, and things, and the what-if engine by way of example. Let's start with the hard parts of people, and then we're going to add some invisible connection between them. And there's many topics of invisible connections we could pull from. Let's start with religious practices. So we'll have the hard parts are two people, two humans that you can see standing there. We're going to give them a religious practice. Let's say it's a chosen one prophecy, and that each interprets it differently. One hopes for unification from it, the other fears tyranny from it. Now we have our what-if engine kind of running already. If there is a prophecy of there being a uniting ruler as the chosen one, then there can be opposing perspectives. You can get hope and fear, and they can have opposing motivations, and this can lead to conflict, tension, intrigue, triumph, defeat, and those are the output that we are after in world building and storytelling, because those lead to the emotional resonance consequences that we're after. So by adding a religious practice, an invisible thing, between these two hard parts, these two people, we have given our world an ability to produce story that has emotional heft. Okay, let's move on to another hard part. Let's move on to places. How could a place generate resonance? How do we get there? Let me show you. To get there, let's say we're going to have a couple of hard parts. We'll have a mountain pass and the communities that live there, right? More people. Let's inflict an invisible connection on that mountain pass. Let's say that it is a critical trade route for all the people. All right, now we have our if-then engine. If this mountain pass is a critical trade route, then the territories around it engage in hopeful treaties, tense standoffs, and webs of espionage that build and shatter trust, all of which will generate impactful emotions. Let's move on to things. How can we make things generate emotional resonance? Let's pick on resources. Let's say the hard parts for things are a mineral and the surrounding people. What are we going to inflict on this as an invisible connection? Let's say the mineral is rare and enables extreme technological advancement. Okay, what is our what-if engine now from this? If the rare mineral creates technological advancement, then the population separates into factions. Let's say based on all kinds of reasons. Old rivalries, affections, family lines, power plays, and they engage in a breathless arms race, full of reckless accidents and cruel subjugations and betrayals and surprising alliances. Again, impactful emotional events. We did it again. We've established how invisible connections shape a world's conflicts, but those tensions only exist in potential. How do we take these abstract, static relationships and make them tangible in the player's experience, unfolding on screen in real time? In linear media, once all this context is set up, just like we did in world building, it basically rolls out in the vehicle of scenes and dialogue, going from abstract, static, to dynamic and real time, and from backstory to main story. For us in games, we often still dip into this format, interleaving cinematics in between gameplay, bypassing the challenges of interactivity by simply removing it. How do we instead find some way to lean into our interactivity and find some aspect of our medium to serve the same purpose as scenes and dialogue in passive media? Thankfully, we have just the thing: mission objectives. But mission objectives aren't just arbitrary tasks. They serve as the mechanism that links player action to narrative consequence. The secret is to design mission objectives as the cogs and gears that set the invisible conflicts between people, places, and things into motion, turning static setups into active, unfolding story beats. To do this, we must connect the tangible, mechanical player actions, or the physical verbs, to the deeper thematic consequences of the narrative, the mental verbs, if you will. Physical verbs are shoot, strike, collect, build, run, steal. Mental verbs are betray, avenge, deceive, expose, trust, corrupt. So we marry these together by saying, for example, let's pretend a king thwarted a coup by destroying the rebels' critical supply bridge and casting them out as the fallen order. As long as the bridge remains broken, the king is safe and the rebels oppressed. If you build that bridge, then you will betray your word to the king, but you will earn the trust of the fallen order. Just assume all the details behind that work. You can see where the physical verb build we have linked to the mental verbs betray and gain trust. Again, invisible connections, applying here to mission objectives, but it's what makes the whole system work. We will cover this in way more depth in the episode about level design is narrative, but for now, the key takeaway is this. Mission objectives are yet another invisible layer of narrative design. So let's say you're an executive. How do you get a grip on something invisible like this? Short of getting your MFA, or having come up through narrative discipline in games, you can't. It's difficult. So instead, let's focus on a few key things that you can do to support the craft of narrative design in your game. First of all, understand the invisible nature of the role. Recognize that narrative isn't just about dialogue or plot, it's the intricate web of connections that is crucial to driving player engagement and profit. Give narrative a seat at the table early. Invite narrative designers to the table at the start of the project, not as an afterthought, and as critical contributors to the world building and system designs. Encourage collaboration. Narrative should influence and be influenced by other disciplines, from gameplay to art, sound, and design, to create a fully resonant, cohesive, and immersive experience. Here's a big one. Make time for the process. Narrative design is not a write-it-at-the-end task. It needs as much early, dedicated pre-production time as art, engineering, and design. And it needs cycles for iteration, refinement, and integration, and rewrites. By doing these things, you're amplifying narrative design to connect with players in profound and profoundly profitable ways. Scout's honor. So remember, if narrative design feels invisible, that's because it is. By recognizing its role early in development, you will set the stage for creating emotional resonance that will make your game unforgettable. Okay, everybody, that's it for this episode. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content, and stay tuned for the next one. We will be discussing how to align writing to business goals. See you next time.